When a woman reaches her 40s, certain changes often begin to unfold, changes that are rarely discussed openly. One day, she might be making breakfast for the kids, folding laundry, and planning the family vacation. The next, she could be downloading social apps, buying new lingerie, and texting someone she met at the gym. And as her partner, you might be left standing there, wondering what on earth is happening. This scenario is more common than you think. Many men watch as their once stable, reliable wives seem to re-enter a kind of anxious adolescence. What's most frustrating is that when it happens, everyone acts surprised, as if the warning signs weren't written into her biology years ago. You might believe that 15 years together, raising children, and building a home would make her immune to such shifts. But the truth is, there's a force latent in many women that tends to surface between the ages of 35 and 45. It's not a possibility, it's a probability. The only question is how much damage it will cause when it emerges. Men often fail to realize that the woman at 40 is not the same person they married. I'm not talking about maturity or wisdom. I mean a fundamental rewiring her brain chemistry, her priorities, her entire sense of self. The woman who was perfectly content as a mother and wife at 30 can, by 40, become desperately hungry for validation. And that hunger can drive her to actions that shake the very foundation you built together. A woman's sense of self-worth is often built on shifting sand, her appearance. From the moment she's born, society tells her that her value is tied to her beauty. Be pretty, be attractive, be desired is her default programming. For about 20 years, from 15 to 35, this program runs perfectly. Men pursue her, compliments flow, and she feels valued. But time does what it always does. By 40, she looks in the mirror and sees a stranger. Not because she looks bad, but because she looks 星好 different 星好. The face that once turned heads now barely earns a second glance. The body that once inspired admiration now receives only polite smiles. This isn't vanity, it's an identity crisis. Her whole sense of self was built on being desired. And now that desire is evaporating like morning dew. Think of it this way. Imagine an athlete whose entire identity and self-worth are tied to physical performance. As age sets in, he's still good, but he's no longer what he was. He can't perform like he used to. Now multiply that psychological crisis by 10. And you might understand what's happening in your wife's mind when she realizes her beauty is fading. But here's the problem. Modern society doesn't encourage women to accept this process gracefully. Instead, it amplifies their anxiety. They declare war on time, and the first casualty is often the marriage. At 22, a compliment is just background noise. At 42, that same compliment triggers a dopamine explosion, proof that she's still got it. A stranger's admiration can suddenly feel more validating than a decade of devotion from her partner. Why? Because your devotion is seen as an obligation, while his attention is a 星好 truth 星好. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Married women over 40 can become vulnerable to emotional turbulence. Not because they're bad people, but because they crave an experience their partner can no longer provide. The thrill of being chosen by someone who doesn't 星好 have 星好 to choose them. Your attention doesn't count in the same way, you're already locked in. But the smile from a stranger at the coffee shop, that's pure validation. It proves she's still in the game. Once she gets that first taste of external validation, the shift begins. She starts longing for the feeling of being pursued and desired, not as part of daily life, but as an object of fantasy. That memory becomes an itch that stable, predictable married life can't scratch. You'll know the countdown has started when she begins talking about her past with a smile, not embarrassment. When she mentions old flames with nostalgia, not regret. When her eyes light up talking about her single years, rather than expressing relief they're over. Biologically, a woman's brain does reshape with age. The chemical reward system that made her feel alive at 25 can grow dull by 45. What once made her heart race now barely registers. She needs more intense stimulation to feel the same emotions. And you, her partner, represent safety, familiarity, and predictability. which, to her nervous system, can feel invisible. This explains why the woman who was once content with simple affection may later crave emotional intensity. Her environment often fuels this mindset. Magazines, talk shows, and even some therapy mantras constantly tell her, "You deserve happiness, find yourself, don't settle." These messages validate her anxiety, encouraging her to prioritize fleeting feelings over lasting commitments. Social media magnifies the comparison she scrolls through curated highlights of other lives. While algorithms feed her transformations, fresh starts, and brave new love. Whispering that 幸好的幸好 life is more exciting, and it's not too late to change. The changes start subtly: new skincare routines, intense workout regimens, cosmetic procedures, a younger style of dress. Then comes emotional distance, a need for space, more frequent arguments, or unusually affectionate behavior. The former may mean she's justifying her exit. The latter may signal guilt over what she's already done or plans to do. Pay close attention to her social circle. Divorced friends who are now living their best life can act like emotional drug dealers, whispering, "Life's too short and you only live once." Through their eyes, a stable marriage can be reframed as a prison, and daily responsibilities as sacrifices. Meanwhile, social media shows the glamorous side of change but never the aftermath: the loneliness 6 months later, the children spending holidays apart, the exhaustion of rebuilding, and the emptiness of trading deep connection for shallow attention. Society treats male and female aging very differently. Men are told they're like fine wine. Women are made to feel they have an expiration date. This psychological gap is crucial. Men often face aging with confidence. Women often face it with fear. That's why a male midlife crisis might involve buying a sports car, while a female one can involve dismantling the life that reminds her time is passing, including the family that represents years spent just as a wife and mother. When a woman starts receiving attention from one specific man, a co-worker, an old flame, a gym buddy, the risk escalates. She may insist it's innocent, but watch for the signs: mentioning him too often or not at all, guarding her phone, picking fights, or being unusually sweet. These are red flags. Some women with loving husbands, beautiful homes, and healthy children still walk away for the thrill of feeling desired again. It's not because their partner is lacking, it's because 幸好 familiarity, 幸好 no longer excites them. Sadly, some know exactly what they're destroying, but the fear of growing old without one last adventure can outweigh their sense of duty. Understand this: her choices often have little to do with you as a partner. They stem from her own struggle with aging, her fear of being overlooked, her terror of becoming ordinary. You simply become collateral damage in her war against time. So what can a man do? Recognize the signs early. If her self-worth is tightly tied to her looks and external validation, if she fights aging relentlessly, be aware. 2. Know it's not your failure. You can't fix someone else's relationship with time. 3. Protect yourself and your children. Document, secure your assets, and prepare. When a woman over 40 decides to detonate her life, she often takes everyone down with her. Modern culture loudly encourages women to chase feelings and focus on themselves, but quietly forgets to teach them the value of endurance, the transient nature of beauty, and the lasting worth of character. Not every woman follows this path, but for those whose identity is built on youth and external approval, a midlife psychological quake is very real. If your partner is nearing this stage, watch closely. Look not just for signs of infidelity, but for signs of panic and obsession with youth, nostalgia for the past, a sudden hunger for praise, resentment of responsibility. These are the warning flares. When a woman is driven by the fear of aging, of invisibility, of being ordinary, she may unconsciously push away everything she once held dear, all for one more chance to feel special and desired. This may be a truth no one wants to hear, but it is one worth knowing.